things contributed to it.
Well, I mean, I think the pattern, unfortunately, is actually what's happened is entirely predictable, which was that we had a flood of prescription drugs, 4, 5, 6 years ago. It became very clear that these drugs were being put out in our communities, prescribed to people or not, and all of a sudden we had thousands of people addicted to very powerful opioids. Then what happened a few years ago, I'd say around 2010, was a crackdown on pill mills, which was necessary. But what didn't happen at the same time was a focus on the treatment of those who had been addicted to those pills. But it's just, sadly, this very predictable crisis, and it's a good case study. Our plan is a combination of getting treatment to people who need it and being very tough on the dealers. But if all you do is be tough and you don't get the treatment, that's this is what you get. You get what happened in the last 4 years, where all of a sudden the pill mills are being cracked down on, but everyone's moved over to something else, and we haven't really solved the problem. So that's why it's so important that you have something that's comprehensive like this. Many of the things I've outlined are things the Attorney General could directly do. Right now, as I mentioned, if the Attorney General directly, without any help from the legislature, can push to tie back every overdose death to a dealer and hold them accountable. That's something that we don't need the legislature's help on. The Attorney General, by working by special prosecutors, by training, by helping with investigations, can make that happen. There are other areas where the legislature, we would want to partner with them. And that could be around things like funding. It could also be around things like changing some of the other sentencing laws, so that if a dealer has laced heroin with something that is 80 times as powerful, that the sentencing laws account for that, and all of a sudden there's a much tougher penalty and not something that just gets someone probation. So it's but all of it requires leadership. And right now, I'll tell you, we have. When I look around the country, and I look to what the governor of Vermont dedicated his entire State of the State speech to heroin. He said, "You know what? We got other issues, but right now, if we don't solve this one, those other issues aren't going to feel very relevant." So you're seeing leadership in these other places from governors and attorneys general, and we're just not seeing it here. We're still in sort of this town hall meeting phase. That phase should have been done 2 years ago.
Governor Kasich were reelected this year.
Mm-hmm.
How well do you think you'd be able to work with him?
The interesting thing is, and this is one of the big focuses for me in this whole campaign, and this might get to your first comment when we met, was I'm not running to be the Democratic lawyer of the state. I'm running to be the Attorney General of the state. If John Kasich wins and I win, he's my client. And that's true of the legislature, and that's true of other office holders. So I don't think this job can afford to be seen as just this raw partisan job. If it is, you can't do the job. Now, there are moments where at the end of the day, and this is sort of a fundamental question about every Attorney General, if you think that another office holder is truly violating the Constitution of your state in something they're doing, or the Constitution of the United States, you actually have a duty as an independent office holder to say so. But short of that, my job will be to represent the governor, whoever it is, in court, and to represent what he's trying to do in court. And that will mean sometimes I will be representing him on things I don't agree with him on. But that's the job. And one of my sharpest criticisms of the current Attorney General is I think he's let the partisanship get the best of him, and he has this office in a lot of cases, really all over the country, that are partisan cases that I think aren't appropriate for this job to be doing, because at the end of the day, you aren't just supposed to be the lawyer for your party. You are supposed to be the lawyer for the state, and you're supposed to be looking out for the interests of the state and the rights of the citizens and the public interest.